one of the biggest breakthroughs that I had from a mental perspective was actually defining emotions for what they are operationally. So sadness comes from a lack of options, or rather a lack of perceived options. And that's why it feels like hopelessness, because you don't know what to do. But when I realized that sadness meant that I didn't know what to do, it meant that another way that I could define sadness was ignorance. And that is solvable. And so whenever I feel sad now, it's been my trigger to immediately think, what do I not know? What option do I not see? Because the opposite of that is anxiety, which is you have many options and you have few priorities. Looks, you have many paths that you could pursue and you just don't know which one. And so being able to operationalize what these emotions felt like. So if you feel sad, it just means that you need to go learn more. And that you can do. And then all of a sudden, the learning more becomes the option, and then you don't need to feel sad anymore. And that was like one of the biggest breakthroughs from my like mental health, or whatever you want to call it, mindset, that set me free. And I've taken a lot of effort to try and operationalize emotions so that I can either get out of them or lean into them. So like patience, for example, right? I'm only bringing this up because I think it might be relevant to some people, is that most goals are attainable if you expand the time horizon, even enormous ones. Like you can do anything in 10 years.
You could walk to the moon.
There you go. You can do anything. And so for me, I would say a naturally impatient person. Like I tend to want things immediately now. And you know what? You probably are too. But once I defined patience as figuring out what to do in the meantime, it allowed me to control what I did. Because now, like you and I are being patient for your stock investments. Right now, as we're on this podcast, we're being patient for that because we're doing things in the meantime. And so whenever I felt impatient and wanted to change course, I had to just redefine, what do I need to do today? And if you are sad and impatient, then it means that right now you need to learn what the option is that you need to go pursue. And then that makes it very much under your control. And so step by step, each of these emotions over time, I spent a lot of time trying to define them out so that they no longer control me and I know how to solve them. And then now it just becomes a faster and faster muscle. Like, oh, I feel anxiety. That means that I have many options, that I don't have priorities. Okay, what's my priority? And then all of a sudden, what used to take days of anxiety and feeling this, frog in my throat was just, oh, I need to make a list of all the things that I'm looking at. Which one's the most important? Ignore the rest. And then, I'm good. And what used to take days takes minutes.
One of yours is choosing the plan isn't hard. Doing the plan isn't hard. Sticking to the plan is hard.
Charlie Munger said, the money isn't made in the buy, and it's not made in the sell, it's made in the wait. And that like, I just feel like that's such an elegant way of thinking about it. It's like the hard part about the plan is sticking to the plan. Like the plan wasn't bad. Your first plan was good because it's easy to go say, I'm going to work out 3 days a week for the next year. And it's a good plan.
Pretty good plan.
It's a pretty good plan. And the interesting thing is that like, a mediocre plan that's stuck to always outperforms an amazing and perfect plan that you never stick with to begin with. And I know this obviously from the fitness world, but it applies to everything. And so like the stick to it muscle is the one that you have to flex. And that's why like if you're going through things, you have, especially in the earlier days, like I remember I used to start and stop. And I try this thing, I try that thing. It's normal because you haven't been reinforced enough of sticking with something. Right. But the thing is like you have to stick it out long enough that you get that first carrot, you get that first cookie. And then all of a sudden, everything that you did to get there, you're like, oh, more of that will get me more cookies. And then it just becomes this self-perpetuating cycle. And then you get addicted to working.
Yes. And then you do a launch to 500,000 people and you lock yourself in a closet 6 hours a day for 2 years.
Yeah. That's exactly that. Because I've been rewarded in the past because the first time I actually spent a lot of time on a presentation and I felt good when I walked on stage and didn't feel anxiety, I was like, oh, I want this every time.
Yeah.
And then I had the second thought, which is the much scarier thought, which is now I have to do this every time.
This is the new bar.
This is the new bar.
I want to round out something on that sort of black pill side, which is if you listen to this and you think must be nice or easy for you to say, I get it. Like, I get it. And if you feel like there is something that you can't get over, some genetic, societal, cultural defect that means that you do not have the same ceiling that you think that you should or that other people appear to have, I get it. And the question I would ask is, what do you want? Like, do you want sympathy? Because I will happily give you sympathy. I know what it feels like to be someone that has no belief in themselves and that believes that you are fundamentally a loser and that nothing is going to come to you and that you deserve for nothing to come to you. I understand what that feels like. But what does that mindset get you? Like, fundamentally, what does that mindset give you? Okay, so let's say that you have been dealt as difficult of a hand as possible. And?
Yeah.
And to quote you to you, I can promise you that there is someone who has had it worse and has done it better. I put this clip out a while ago, this like just random talking about a morning routine thing. And it was pretty basic, but it went fucking interstellar. And the real internet got a hold of it. You know, like not your fans, but like the real internet. Like it got the general public internet got a hold of it. The most common comment was something along the lines of, tell me you don't have kids without telling me that you don't have kids, which is, must be easy for you to say, I have a daughter to get up in the morning. I'm like, okay, tell me what that mindset gets you. Genuinely tell me what that mindset gets you. It says, I'm in a situation which I cannot get over, and there are things in reality imposed on me which stop me from doing something. There is somebody out there who has 3 times as many kids as you, and they still do it. So what is it that they've got? Like, what is it that they're doing? Have they got an unfair advantage? What is it? Tell me.
It's also, if you walk down the natural logic of that statement, who do you blame? If you're saying must be nice, or tell me that you don't have kids without telling me that you don't have kids, then does that mean that you blame your child for all the things that you don't have in life? It's a tough weight to put on a kid. Because I mean, I would hope that they don't see that comment, because then they'd be like, wait, mom, dad, like, you didn't live out your dreams because I exist? Tough.